Hey everyone, welcome to this student success interview. I'm Garth Laidlaw with Portprep, and I help art students complete their portfolios to get into their top art schools across the globe. Portprep can help you create the absolute best art portfolio that you can possibly make and have the best chance of getting into your favorite art schools. We have courses on figure drawing, character design, perspective, animation, storyboarding. We even have courses that deal specifically with Sheridan College's animation portfolio, which is notoriously difficult to get into and which is what I graduated from. One of the primary problems that we've noticed with students not getting into their top art colleges is the accountability to produce work on a consistent basis. And this is exactly what we've created these courses for. When you sign up for one of Portprep's courses, we draw directly on top of our students' work to make corrections and also record all of our online meetups and video lectures to send to the students so that you can have it forever. Portprep is incredibly proud of our success rate with getting students into their top art colleges and universities, and so please have a look at our testimonials page. We also offer one-on-one art mentorships as well that are much more customized to your specific artistic goals. Without further ado, let's listen to this student interview.
Oh my gosh, hello.
Hey Athena, how are you?
Can you see me? I feel like the lighting is so bad in here.
Yeah, no, I can see you. It's all good. You're not in a dark dungeon by any way, so that's fine. So, how are you after the long portfolio season?
Oh my goodness, it's rough. It was really rough.
Yeah. Were you working hard
Yeah.
until the very end?
I feel like I was working hard at the very end.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you feel like you have time and then you don't, and then you start as a full-time student at a college and then it gets pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a lot on top of your regular coursework. Well, it obviously paid off. That's fantastic.
It obviously wasn't necessary.
You're and you're an international student, right?
Yeah, I'm from the US. I'm currently living in Pasadena, which is really wonderful.
Okay, gotcha. So you needed to get the score that you did. That was the passing grade
Oh
for this
yeah,
year.
I got a 95 and a 95 was the cutoff, so I'm very lucky.
Wow. Well, good for you. That's fantastic. So how did you find out the news? I always like to hear about the moment that you opened that email and found out that you got in. What was it like?
I have the news. It was horrible. That morning, hold on, I have my text messages. That morning, I texted my mom because I was looking at the last year, because I applied last year and I was waitlisted last year, and I was looking at like the date that they sent it to me, which was March 22nd. So I texted my mom. She's like, and I'm all, I can't believe in a week that this is going to be such bad news. And then like 4 hours later, I get like a little an email saying to look at my portfolio submission. And this was actually in class, in my perspective class.
Oh, wow.
And we were, yeah, there's my perspective homework that I'm writing notes on. In break, and I had to reset my password like 3 times, and I was really stressed out. And then I got in and called my parents.
That's great. And so right now you're at Art Center in Pasadena, right?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Just, I thought this was going to be what it was going to be for me. And this was like a little last hurrah, because I started the portfolio. I was like, I just have to go through with it and finish it.
Okay.
And it's not, I'm not going, I'm going off somewhere else. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's have a look at your portfolio.
Were you able to have access to the Google Drive?
Oh yeah, I got. Actually, you know what? It just didn't let me see the short animation, so that's why I requested access. So I think I'm all good now, probably, because this.
You can see it. Yeah, the short animation. Oh man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get to that. Let's see it in order. So, wow, perfect figure drawing. That's fantastic. You're in college though, so that I'm sure helped a little bit. The amount of figure drawing that you're doing there.
Actually, no, I'm not doing any figure drawing because my credits transferred. I've had 2 previous figure drawing classes when I was in community college, however.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that clearly helped. Characters are pretty good. 9 out of 10. It's pretty much a 9 out of 10. Wow, really good on your short animation. 19 out of 20 on your storyboard. Okay, we could definitely have to see that. I feel like that's the one that scares everyone. That's the one that's most, I mean, that and animation is the two that are the least familiar for most of our students. So yeah, we'll definitely have to have a look at that. Perfect perspective, perfect personal work. That's great. So you got to be pretty happy with the score. I mean, it took me a second to even see where you lost any marks.
Yeah, last year, and we in our meeting together, my character rotation, which is the same as last year, it got a
Mhm.
perfect score. And you're
Oh,
like, good, just send it off. And that was my lowest score this year, which was
that is wild. I remember this character and I absolutely love it. And I think the last year's score, this is a 15 out of 15. They clearly made a typo there. Um, as it tends to happen. I gotta say, it does happen where I like look at it and I'm like, I don't really get it. And a lot of people have done that too, right? That they resubmit old work and then it gets a different score, and it's like, okay. I mean, obviously they're not comparing for anyone potentially watching this. They're obviously not comparing your two portfolios side by side and being like, oh, okay, well we have to stay consistent with that previous. They're looking fresh, but I guess in the effort of thinking objectively, you'd think there'd be some kind of common criteria that they could use, but I don't know. Art is nebulous, so it is. I empathize with the situation, but wow, these are fantastic gestures, Athena. Holy.
Yeah, the one on the right, I remember you gave some really helpful tips in,
Mm,
Sheridan mostly wants to see frontal. They don't want to see a lot of back, so I switched
mm,
around what I wanted to do. I
yeah.
also drew in some of the hands. I kind of finalized the hands. And then the one on the left-hand side was one that Art Center actually has drop-in figure drawing
Oh,
workshops. So
great.
that's one I did
Okay.
like a couple weeks before the submission date. And
Oh, great.
yeah, so that was that one on the left.
Nice. Yeah. I have to say though, I don't see too many folks that will do a seated or like any kind of pose on the ground for one of their gestures. But yours is one of those few that look like it's still moving. He could be raising his hand or he could be kind of bracing to stand up. So that's a nice way to kind of show some movement even while on the ground. Because often I find that is like by their description, you need to have something moving. So it often feels a little still, but this one is really nice. And that second one is just fantastic. I think they're okay with back poses, by the way. It's just that just the straight on back poses where is
Yeah.
using mostly the Z depth, as I call it, like going back and forward in space.
Mhm.
Those are tricky from a straight on back view because it's just you don't see very much. So it's more that I would find risky than a back view. But these clearly they really liked. So that's fantastic. And okay, so here's your long poses. Nice.
The funny one about these were that I actually drew in the legs later. These were torso studies, like a 15-minute
Okay.
torso studies, and I loved them so much that I just cracked open my anatomy textbook and I just drew in the legs.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
I wish
And
the portfolio reviewers could hear this. But
I timed myself. It was 5 minutes, so the total is 20
there
minutes.
you
It's
go.
allowed.
That's great. Really great anatomy and structure, as I would imagine from a student of Art Center. This is really good. So really nice job. You've even got the do they teach the Riley method there of drawing faces and anatomy and such, or is this just kind of a general kind of basic face blocking that you
This was
intuitively do?
actually when I was in community college. I think something that's really wonderful about California community colleges in Southern California is that a lot of the teachers also teach at other well-known schools. Like for
Oh,
example,
great.
my first class that I had, it was at like a Saddleback Community College, and the teacher also taught at LCAT, for example.
Okay.
My teacher at this community college, IVC, was an Art Center alum. He did teach the Riley method. We also did like 1 week of doing heads. But at
Okay.
my head and hands class that I currently have at Art Center, they kind of briefly touched on that and the rhythm method, but we mostly are doing the Loomis method.
Loomis. Okay, great. Yeah, I often would see that Loomis PDFs going around at Sheridan too. So that's really nice to hear. Oh wow, beautiful hands. Great sense of like structure and almost like a has a delicate feeling to it. Like some of your more the lines that are just denoting texture and kind of the skin itself rather than like a bone or a muscle feel nice and like yeah, very descriptive. That's really great. Wow. I'm actually surprised these are a 9 out of 10. These
No,
look like a 10 out of 10 for me.
I think on the left-hand one, what I the blue lines that I use to indicate like the position of the hand are kind of off and not correct
Hmm.
as to where they would actually be. I do regret these because I feel in my head and hands class, like a couple of weeks after the submission, our teacher handed out like little, like literally exactly this, but done from a professional rather than like trying to like reference from an accepted submission from
Okay.
Sheridan. I just wish that I had looked at like professional examples of
Hmm.
like a geometric breakdown of the hand rather than trying to like piece it together myself.
Sure. Okay. That's a good tip. But I mean, yeah, oof, these are really good. I mean, one of the riskier things I would see, although this is done beautifully, is that we can't quite see the connection of those fingers. The thumb is taking so much of the show in that first image. And I mean, if you could, and it's tricky to do this, especially if it's your own hand, but I'd bring that camera down a little bit and look up so that you see a little bit more of your palm, and it's a little easier to see where everything inserts into. Because this second one, you can absolutely see where those fingers all attach, and it's quite clear. And you've even done some kind of structural lines through that thumb, as you did here. But it's always a little trickier to see it. But I don't know. Who knows what was the thing that? Yeah, this just doesn't make any sense. This is so good. I love this character. The weight is just so convincing. It has a like droopy feeling, which is great because you're using that dog that is already very droopy. So it's nice that the coat and all the design sort of echoes that. Again, I'm just like shocked that this lost 2 marks. Maybe they were just like, let's not make her too confident. Let's bring her down a couple marks.
um, I mean, maybe it could be the construction lines that I don't have any. I thought
Oh
that
yeah, okay.
kind of like the seams of the coat could kind of work in that way, or
Yeah,
the wrinkles. In looking at it, like what I would do differently, I'm not really a fan of the profile view. I think
okay.
everything else is pretty successful, but I think like I probably would have handled the gut and then the sort of like head fat rolls a little bit differently. That's the only
Okay.
thing I can think of.
Hmm. I guess, yeah, if I look closely, the head fat rolls, as you called it, like especially the topmost one, or maybe that's just kind of the little top of the spine. Oh no, yeah, wait a second. I see it. It's up there. For some reason, I thought that was the top of the coat, but well, I don't know. It's pretty consistent. Yeah, I don't know. This is good. It's a very fun design, and also I have such mixed feelings about the construction lines. I feel like some people add them and do great, and then some people don't do great, even if they have them. And
Mm.
then the opposite is also true. Some people don't have them and they get perfect, and then they do have them, and those people might also get perfect. I don't know if it necessarily adds a lot. I think it really depends on the pose. This
Mhm.
back 3/4 view, maybe that would have helped a little bit to kind of like see the depth of him a little bit more clearly, but because it's funny, you've got the in the Spider-Verse situation with the villain, what's his name, Kingpin, where it looked like you can't really see much. It's like a
Yeah.
wall, which is part of the personality too, right? He's like this mob boss type character.
Um,
Nice, yeah.
I remember I did this last year, but I'm trying to think of like things that could help others. I
Hmm.
remember this one did take me a really long time, and it wasn't because I didn't know what I wanted, but
Yeah.
it's because I took like 10,000 different reference photos. With
Okay.
my dad's shoes, I took reference photos of the shoes at
Wow.
all the angles. I took reference photos of my hands at all the angles. I put both of my parents in clothes, and I like took pictures in my dad's suit, and then
Wow.
I also made a 3D model.
Wow.
I also did like a
Like a
very
real model
basic
or
3D. No, I did it in
Blender or
no, what is it called? It was this it was either in ZBrush because I was trying out ZBrush then, or that one
okay.
application on iPad.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it's called. Yeah, I think it was free when I had it.
Hmm. It's amazing that they have a 3D modeling software on the iPad that you can kind of
Yeah,
just sculpt away like ZBrush.
it's pretty cool.
Huh. Cool.
That's what I did
Okay.
for a couple of different pieces. Just
Well, you
another
did
thing
your
that
homework
I
then.
think is really important is I would also, not for this specifically, but for the perspective drawing that I did more recently this year, the one in the
Hmm.
chapel, I used a lot of 3D models that you could find online.
Okay.
It would be like Turbo Squid or something like that, and that's the reference
Oh.
used
Yeah.
for, you have to have like a little email for it, but it was, that's what I used for the chandelier references. I still plotted out
Oh,
ellipses properly, but I was trying
yeah.
to figure out how everything would kind of fall in a line. So I used chandelier references
That's
there.
great. Because that would be a difficult area of this background for sure. Getting every, because you have so many ellipses, it's not just one round. You have like several layers to it.
Hmm.
And that's a very like industry standard way to do it, I would say. I mean, I don't know very many people these days that would go through the trouble of getting that square in perspective first, and then getting the circle, and then doing it multiple times. Like, I don't know the amount of labor that is involved with that. I think most people would find an alternative for. So I think it's just realistic, I guess, is what I'm saying, to do that kind of thing these days.
No, I did
Um,
plot out the square, but I just used it as because I
okay.
also used this as a submission for my perspective class, which is where I opens up the
Okay.
acceptance letter.
Oh, great. All right. Well, let's have a look at your short animation. Wow. I wonder if this is the right frame rate.
No, you this was very last minute.
No, sorry. I mean, like the frame rate of the animation. It feels like almost like it's not as smooth as I imagine you did it. It feels just a little jittery for some reason. Do you have another file of this somewhere?
No, I don't. That is what I submitted. I know.
Okay.
That's pretty
Okay.
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit like you did it on threes. I'm guessing you didn't. Um, but that's kind of the feeling for some reason. But I like the
True price.
fluidity of the juice box. That's super fun. Like you have this like really nice flowiness to it. It's nice how you've given the juice box a little bit of your own stylization. Even the kind of roundedness at the corners. There's an element of caricature here, which I actually really like. And I like how that piece is like gradually coming out and then it just kind of blows. Um, and you didn't have any kind of effect, shooting out of it. Just like, I guess we just assumed that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's super fun. Any tips for this one? What software did you use?
I used Procreate.
Oh,
That's what
wow.
I did
Okay,
last
great.
year.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I used Procreate because it's free. It's really accessible. It's really easy.
Mhm.
What are things that I found out recently? Procreate doesn't have like animation layers, but if you do want to
Yeah.
have layers, like you have line art and then you want to color, you have to group them like in the layers tab.
Yeah.
Um, you can have a background and you'd have to group all of the aspects of the background, and then and you have to put it as your first frame, and then you can have that be your background, which is what I did here. I used a perspective grid, and then I just made it all black, and then
Okay.
I set that as the background.
Oh,
In
great.
my If anybody else, I mean, for people who may or may not be watching, I wouldn't recommend referencing this one. I do have a Sheridan animation from last year in my personal section with the USB, which looks a
Oh,
lot better. I would recommend that people look at that
great.
over this one.
Okay.
This one's
We'll have a
very
look
last minute.
soon. And your 19 out of 20 storyboard, congrats on that. That's a very rare thing. Like most marks that I see lost are usually with storyboard or life drawing or perspective, I guess. But yeah, and this works so well. I love your shooting, the posing of panel three. I actually remember talking about this a lot. I don't even remember what I had to say about it, but
Yeah, it
we
was
definitely chatted about this in the session.
the thing that I tried to focus on because I feel like even now I'm still so like, how do I even do a storyboard? I mean, I've talked to people who've worked in storyboards
Mm,
that came to speak to us at Art Center, and I'm just like, still now it's very difficult. But the main thing that I tried to focus on was to make every single frame like look different. I guess that
sure.
makes like have it look at the character in a different way, which
Yeah.
is why what you were telling me in frames 3 and 4, which is I was kind of concerned that they would look very
Mm,
similar. And you're like,
okay.
look up and then look down, which is what I did, and
Mm.
I thought that was very successful.
Oh, great.
So that
Yeah,
was the
I was
one
gonna
thing I was
say
trying to
it.
focus on.
Yeah, and I love your last panel, like the posing, the angle. Like, I just don't know if we could have like moved the camera in a more successful position, like especially for what you're trying to achieve. Like 100% how I would have shot it. And of course the punchline of panel 3, which is that we don't really see what it's going to be, right? It's so much is unknown, and the way you shot panel 2 sets us up well nicely as well. In that it's like the horizon line is right at that pool, so we can't really tell what's in it. And yeah, this didn't read to me right away, to be honest. I was like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's like, I get it. It's bouncing. You've done basically a smear frame of animation. For a storyboard, I don't know. I guess I'd put some like little lines in between, because that would absolutely work as a smear frame. But it's funny that you've drawn a smear frame in the storyboard. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, excellent posing, and I like how we do see, like, not one of these poses are one of the poses that they give you for the character. Well, the 2 poses that they give you, which really isn't much, right? You've done a great job of like making each pose totally different than the ones because I find some folks will put the pose like very similar. It's like the possum from a 3/4 front view, and it's like that exact face, and it might have its mouth open a little bit more, but otherwise it's so similar. So it's nice that each of your poses are so distinctly different.
Yeah, I mean, they already know what it looks like as a static frame, and I think I've already shown that in the first frame. I mean, if you zoom in, it still looks very similar to the profile, but like,
definitely,
they already know what it looks like. I want to do something different with it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and here's this again. Curious why the door feels kind of distinct. It feels like you used a softer edged brush or something, or I don't know.
I know, it's because
Doesn't
I
really
traced
matter
the
either way,
arch
but...
and then I just scaled it down, and then it just turned really pixelated.
Oh, huh. Well, either way, doesn't
Yeah.
really make a difference. But beautiful details in here. Wow, and what a place to draw. So great, and it's nice how you clearly were choosy about which details you wanted to include and which you didn't want to. Like on this pillar, there might have been a little bevel or an edge there or something, but you're like, no, let's keep it kind of simple, because you're right. If you put too much detail and texture in there, you might overpower your character, right? So was that a consideration at all, Athena?
It was. Yeah, I was really wondering whether I should put like bevels on certain things or details and decorations.
Wall texture and ground texture, I guess.
Yeah, and I was really looking, I was maybe should put like scrolls or decorations or paintings, and that was something that I really had considered. And if I had more time, maybe I'd play around with it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to at least show that I could do perspective and plotting everything absolutely perfect. I think that was my main consideration.
Yeah.
Over and then having like areas of detail rather than like everything like finished and polished.
Sure. That's a beautiful image. Oh, wow. And for something totally different. Very
That
beautiful.
was actually what I had submitted last year. I was planning on doing something, and then I was like, you know what? I don't have time, and this is good enough.
Sure. Oh, I love it. It's very like, your details are really nice in both of these. They're very simple, but like elegant, and doesn't busy our eye too much. Like, you've done a tiny little edge to the stone and the odd little line to kind of help it read as rock. But then you're like, okay, that's good. I'm leaving it there. I'm not going to like just go nuts. I do that, and a lot of our students do that, where it's just so over textured. But the grass feels very soft and fluffy, has a nice like unevenness to the mound of ground. Wow, you've got a plant back there. I just realized. Cool. Okay. Some runes on these rocks. Nice. Really fun. Wow, that's the whole portfolio. Okay. And then your personal work.
Yeah, I went to National Portfolio Day. I don't know if it's like a thing in Canada. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But this was one that was in San Diego. And the page on the left-hand side with all the heads, I think I did this over the course of like a couple years, but the ones on the bottom right-hand side were the only ones on that page. And every single portfolio admissions officer was like, you need to do more of this. They were like salivating over that single thing. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
What? No. So I put it in.
So the bottom right, like these ones here?
Those were the only ones that were on that page. And they were like, just fill the page with just this.
Wow.
It would be perfect.
That's great.
I just went to Pinterest, and then some of those are my friends.
Faces. Oh, that's fun. And
Yeah.
then for obviously something equally realistic on the right side, right?
Yeah. I was looking towards getting into like ZBrush modeling and like
Yeah.
more of that sort of thing. So I was
Hmm.
very inspired by like Beksinski and very surrealist type stuff. So that was something
Hmm.
I did a little bit earlier.
That's great. Really nice. Also, great pictures is one thing that I often mention is that make sure you take good pictures where it's very clear. And these are both very clear. So that's good. Um, nice. Some
I
environment
edited all
drawings.
of these. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I edited all of these pictures in oh my goodness, what is it called? I should have been ready. Sketch Seed, I think it was called. I'm not really good at like editing within Photoshop.
Okay.
It's called Snapseed, and
Snapseed.
that's
Okay.
where I would edit most of my photos. It's an application on iPad. It looks like a little
Okay.
seed on a white back, a little leaf on a white background.
Okay. Great. Nice. Really great foot. Wow. Look at that. Just coming right towards us.
Yeah, those are my
Fantastic.
mom's feet.
Yeah. Great. Nice to see some fashion stuff. Um, really nice actually. Wow. The material. It's both like the fashion thing and the material description and like how the shininess works. Like that's super interesting. Really fun. Some more your dog or a dog. I assume it's your dog.
No, it's not actually my dog. I just
Okay.
it was Jenna Marbles' YouTube video of it's like her dog Kermit every time he's like nasty, and then I
Okay.
just paused it every so often and I just sketched what I saw.
That's great.
It would
Wow.
probably be better if it was in person, but
Who would know? I mean, these are wonderful. Such a little personality he is.
yeah.
Oh, nice. Self-portrait.
Yeah,
Wow.
that portrait is 2 by 4 feet, so it's gigantic.
Wow. Okay. That's great. Um, paint, or no, some kind of graphite, right?
It was a char it was mostly charcoal, and then I used it's like the pencils are called Cretacolor, which is like a charcoal graphite sort of blend.
Sure.
I
Okay.
really like.
Wow. That's great. Wonderful details. Nice edges. That's really, really great. Wow. And then, wow, this is great. Nice range of things too. I think they always like to see that. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So this is your last year's animation, right?
No, this is the walk cycle.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes, I remember that. Yeah, super fun. Great. That looks just like a fun piece to do, honestly.
It was so
Um,
fun.
wait, is this, did I?
Oh, that's the next one.
Okay,
Oh,
nice.
it was a little fast. Why did it look like that?
Might have just lagged a little bit. I'm not sure. It looks good to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. So bouncy. I like that.
Yeah, that's the one that got a perfect score that I'm actually really happy with.
That's awesome. And is that the end?
I
One.
think it is.
Yeah, okay. Great. Well, nice work. Yeah, really, really awesome. It's nice to see it all together too. Do you have I'm curious what your top three tips for future applicants would be. And these can be obviously super specific or more like broad. Like one of the biggest ones we hear is time management. Of
Yeah, I
course.
felt like people were going to say that, so I'm not going to say that.
Okay, great.
Um, well, I mean, yes, time management one, definitely. But I feel like for a lot of people, it's gonna just end up being very, you're gonna that's how everything is. You're gonna plan things out. You're gonna take a lot of time. You're gonna spend a lot of time on it, and then at the end, there's always gonna be a tiny a crunch, no matter how big or small, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so
Um,
too.
I think I already said this, but take a bunch of reference pictures,
Yeah.
your own reference pictures, ideally, especially if you're doing, yeah, like with that reference pictures. I liked to, I've done multiple character rotations and I've done 3D models for all of them,
Mm,
just whether that be
wow.
through like free websites where you can literally pose a mannequin or having your own little mannequin and posing it, or sculpting something and
Sure.
doing that.
Hmm.
Referencing professionals, I
Yeah.
would say, with the instance of the hand, or maybe examples of like the perspective, for example. Like that's like use Sheridan application, like successful portfolios, as like a guide stone of like where you want to go, but
Yeah.
to use the professionals as like an end goal, I think.
That's great. Yeah. Because often it is, students do reference a lot of other portfolios, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm just gonna basically do that. But you're saying actually look further, look to the professionals that are in the field already working for different things, and it's maybe a better guide of what to do. Okay, that's great.
Because I feel like at the end of the day, I mean, if I had submitted this again, would it really get the same score? I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of, as objective as Sheridan Admissions tries to make their process, a lot of it does tend to be very, very different. So you don't know whether this was like a good day for this
Sure.
specific person, where it's a blue moon on like a Tuesday and they just got a really good score,
Yeah.
or was this actually something that would be scored equal? I don't know. Just
Sure.
and
Yeah.
then 3 tips. I mean, time management, obviously.
Yeah.
I think for me, something that's very difficult for me is like deciding what to do rather than
Yeah.
the actual doing of it. So I think
Sure.
getting that out of the way and knowing what you want
Hmm.
out of each individual thing is really important. The ideation process and just
Yeah.
preparation.
Hmm. Okay. Great. And was there anything that you felt gave you a particular edge with your portfolio?
I think for me, like I know where my weak spots are, and I didn't include any of them in this portfolio. Like
Hmm.
concept
That's
art, for
great.
example, is something that
Okay.
I really struggle with. Concept art, character design, that sort of thing is pretty difficult for me. So I think for me, I tried to focus on my strengths, which are figure drawing and figure drawing mostly.
Yeah.
So I have
Okay.
pretty strong figure drawings, and then I have really strong structural kind of illustrative type stuff.
Hmm. Okay.
That's what I tried to focus on. I know
Which is a
that
great start for concept art, ironically. Like you,
it is. It's just coming up with ideas. I
yeah,
don't know. Maybe it's
sure,
just me, but being at art school, I feel like you're working so hard in one direction of just such academic drawing that like all your ideas just like wither and die, and you have to kind of take a little break to get more creative. If
sure.
that even
Especially when
makes
you
sense.
do a lot of observational or classical sort of
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I've been doing. So
Hmm.
coming up with new things is ironically really difficult for me.
Sure. And what would you emphasize the most for next year students and parents to take from your success?
Hmm. I don't know. Like I feel like just kind of I sympathize because I'm an international student, and last year I got waitlisted, and if I was Canadian I would have gotten in. So it's just I understand the frustration. I understand
Hmm.
like sort of questioning yourself. Is this right for you? Is this, and it seems to it's getting harder every single year, and it's just maybe I'm just jaded because I'm a little bit older and I've gone through these things before. Um,
Hmm.
but I totally get it. I think, you can do everything right and it still sometimes it flops. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I sympathize. I get it. Um, I think the most important thing is just putting your best foot forward and then understanding that this is a very narrow way of selecting people for a program.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Mm. Maybe,
Great.
maybe that was like a little bit too pessimistic.
No, I mean it's nice to. I mean you're right. Things have changed so drastically. Even to give a sense of this, like the accepting mark for my year, which was oh boy, feeling old now. 2008, I guess, was 76.
Oh man.
76. I got in with the 76. I was at the bottom of the heap, and I would never have made it today. My second time, my first time, I don't even know, I don't even think I have that mark in my memory. It's blacked out. Um, so now it's like 90, like with a 95 acceptance rate, it is very hard for me or anyone to be able to tell for sure what is a 9 out of 10 and what is a 10 out of 10. And that makes my job super difficult. Especially with things like life drawing where like there's so many different ways to do it and
Yeah.
Sometimes they like really clean stuff. Sometimes they like really loose and gestural stuff like yours. I mean, this is tighter here, so you show your range actually. But some people will, it'll be too noisy, and then some years they don't like that, and some years they want it really clean. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's very hard to predict. So what? Oh, were you going to say something?
Oh no, I remembered something that I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Another thing with a lot of these, like I'm at Art Center and I'm in the illustration program right now, but I'm friends with people in transportation design and concept, which I feel like are very like
Mm,
similar to kind of the prestige of
okay.
the animation program at Sheridan.
Sure.
Um, Most of them did not go straight out of high school.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm 20, I just turned 22. I'm a lot older. I feel like a lot of these more prestigious programs, for better or for worse, they do tend to want people to like already know a lot of things
Yeah.
and people to already have sort of this really strong foundation
Yeah.
of education. So I think maybe it's
Absolutely.
because I'm from SoCal and because community college art education is a little bit better here than it would be elsewhere. But I
Mm,
think not, I mean, applying and that's, for the first time, straight out of high school, that might be helpful to kind of get a benchmark. But I think
yeah.
going straight out of high school, either going to a community college like I did and doing figure drawing especially, and or taking a program like Portprep, a lot of the people at Art Center also had either tutors who had previously gone to the program, like individual tutors, or they went
Yeah.
to art prep programs. That is, in my opinion, typically what I'm seeing.
Okay.
It's people who are a little bit older
Yeah.
who went and did these sort of supplemental things to prep their portfolio. It's very
Yeah.
unusual to see someone straight out of high school.
Yeah. And that's really exactly why we created this tiny business of Board Prep, is that like because I remember being there. I was a high school student and I was the top of my class. I was like 97 in high school art. I'm no problem sliding into this animation program. And then I was just totally rocked by the mark and how horrible my portfolio was, and you start to realize, especially once you get there. Like I did a year of art fundamentals to kind of prepare myself to get in, and like everyone there, pretty much that is trying to get into animation were those same students as me at all the different high schools around the globe, basically. So it's all the people that are at 97 and are in high school and have great grades, and so well, I mean, some of them don't have great grades. You don't actually need that high of a grade to get into Sheridan and many other art schools because they mostly focus on the portfolio, obviously. So, but yeah, it definitely, it's good to know that, there's a point to what we're doing here, because that's why we did this. Anyways, the last funnest question where you get to kick back and have some imagination, is with unlimited resources at your disposal and a giant team of artists, what would your dream future animation or illustration? You're in illustration right now, or concept art. What would your dream project be to work on or lead?
I don't know, maybe I'm such like an odd person for saying this, but I actually don't have dreams of like leading a project. I
Okay.
just want to work on something that looks cool. But that being said,
Okay.
something I really, really enjoy, like I wrote it down. I wrote two things down, Ghost in the Shell and then Vampire D Blood Hunter. Those are things I've been like
Oh,
looking at.
cool.
Those are like my inspirations. And then I've also
Sure.
been something that I've been liking for longer would be very, very surrealist work, like
Mm,
Beksinski and stuff
yeah.
like that. So it would probably be like some like really mature art style because
Sure.
I don't know, I don't really like the super hyper stylized stuff, just the stuff that like
Sure.
I naturally gravitate towards and draw in. Like,
Yeah.
like a very realistic art style, like of something really cool sci-fi.
Yeah.
Uh, I really would love to do like an animated series of gosh, it would probably be like Rendezvous with Rama, which is a book by Arthur C. Clarke that I thought would be
Okay.
really, really interesting.
Oh, neat.
Or the
Okay.
Foundation series, which is another thing that I really like. Just something sci-fi,
Oh, yeah.
maybe something
Okay.
that's really like I don't know. It's
Sure.
stuff I like.
Yeah. I mean, I see little remnants. I mean, here's a little Giger-esque thing.
Mhm.
And then could you say his full name again? This guy that inspired this sort of artwork, the
I
that
practiced it. It's Zdzisław Beksinski.
wow. And one more time, let's just see if it's the same.
Zdzislaw Beksinski. Oh man, it's Polish.
Wow.
Maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah, he does a fascinating artwork that everyone, I don't know if he was intentionally doing this, but he made these images that felt like they depicted what hell is like. At
Mhm.
least that's what everyone says. So really cool. And it's nice that you're pulling inspiration from different places, because sometimes the animation world is too just in its own kind of echo chamber, I guess. So it's nice
Yeah.
that you're pulling from different stuff. Well, awesome. Thanks so much, Athena, for doing this interview with us. I'm sure it's going to be super helpful.
I hope so.
And congrats again. This is super exciting. So you're going to Canada next year.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
luck.
California girl.
Yeah. Good luck, and I hope you have a great time.
Thank you so much. This
All
has been
right.
so nice.
Awesome. Take care, Athena.
Bye bye.